you're acting like it down now. You know what you're acting like it down now. You know you're acting like it down now. I tell you, fuck show. You know you're acting like it down now. You know what you're acting like it down now.
The last D-Generation X video uploaded to this channel looked at the team's 2006 return. Shawn Michaels and Triple H mainly feuded with Vince McMahon during this run before moving on to a rivalry with Rated RKO. Triple H got injured at the New Year's Revolution pay-per-view at the beginning of 2007. Shawn Michaels would continue to represent D-Generation X as he formed a short-lived tag team with WrestleMania opponent John Cena. The unlikely duo even won the WWE Tag Team titles on their way to WrestleMania 23. On April 1st, 2007, HBK walked into WrestleMania while the D-Generation X music played in the arena. It was supposed to be Triple H versus Cena in the Mania 23 main event, but Shawn stepped up to the plate and he replaced his best friend. He had a good match with the WWE Champion here, but in the end, Shawn lost. We'll pick up from here then as we look at the final run of D-Generation X. By the time Backlash 2007 came around, Shawn's entrance music was reverted back to his sexy boy theme, and the DX branding was now completely gone. With Triple H out of the picture, HBK moved forward as a solo star once again. Triple H made his comeback at SummerSlam that year, and the decision was made to not reunite D-Generation X on a full-time basis. Shawn and Hunter would, of course, have odd one-night-only reunions over the next year or so. The January 28th, 2008 episode of Raw featured Shawn and Hunter taking on Umaga and Snitsky in a tag team match. They reformed once again on the September 29th, 2008 episode of Raw to take on Chris Jericho and Lance Cade. And then DX also made a comeback on the 800th episode of Raw, held on November 3rd, 2008. Shawn and Hunter took on The Miz and John Morrison here in an entertaining matchup. DX would get together for some backstage promos, mainly to shill WWE merchandise, but it looked like Shawn and Hunter were destined to go their separate ways from this point forward. That all changed after WrestleMania 25. Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker had what many consider the greatest WrestleMania match of all time in 2009. HBK wanted to be the man who ended The Undertaker's legendary WrestleMania winning streak, and so the two men squared off at Mania 25, putting on a legitimate show-stopping performance that kept viewers on the edge of their seats. There's many wrestling matches out there that I feel are overrated with unjustified praise, but trust me, Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25 is a match you simply can't miss. The acclamation this match receives is very much justified. In the end, Shawn couldn't beat The Undertaker, and HBK decided to take a break from professional wrestling after the WrestleMania matchup. While away from the ring, Shawn came to terms with his own eventual retirement. HBK said he wanted to go out while he was still performing at a high level, going by the mantra of leave them wanting more and not overstaying your welcome. HBK and the WWE felt that the best thing to do here was to give D-Generation X one final run before Shawn retired, and it would all come to an end at WrestleMania 26, where Shawn would once again square off with The Undertaker, trying to recapture the magic of Mania 25 and leave on a high note. Also at WrestleMania 25, Triple H successfully defended his WWE title against Randy Orton, the leader of Legacy at the time. Legacy was pretty much Orton's own version of the Evolution stable, but this one had a twist. All members of the group were either second or third generation superstars. After a little shuffling around and a few changes, the final team consisted of Randy Orton, Ted DiBiase Jr. and Cody Rhodes, and Triple H would find himself dealing with the Legacy before and after WrestleMania 25. The Triple H vs Legacy feud continued through the spring and summer of 2009, and when the numbers got too much, Triple H decided he would go out and try to find his old DX partner to even the odds. Triple H's search for HBK led him to an office building in San Antonio, Texas, where Shawn Michaels was working as a chef in the staff cafeteria. The legendary Shawn Michaels, who we last saw in a legendary match with The Undertaker, was now flipping burgers for office workers, and Triple H couldn't believe what he was seeing. Throughout the August 10th, 2009 episode of Raw, The Game tried to get Shawn Michaels to give up his new profession and return to the ring, but Shawn showed resistance, even though children were throwing food at the Heartbreak Kid and HBK was having multiple problems in the kitchen. In the end, Shawn decided to leave the job after his boss yelled at him. HBK superkicked his employer and a little girl who was giving him grief, and DX was back in business. The next week on Raw, the DX vs Legacy feud kicked off when Ted DiBiase and Cody Rhodes attacked Shawn and Hunter during a D-Generation X promo. The DX vs Legacy rivalry, Legacy consisting of Cody and DiBiase, would span over 3 pay-per-view events: SummerSlam, Breaking Point, and Hell in a Cell. DX's SummerSlam 2009 entrance was really something else. A remixed version of DX's theme played in the arena as soldiers ran onto the entranceway. Missiles and explosions went off all around the arena. Searchlights scanned through the audience as the WWE tried to make SummerSlam feel like a war zone. HBK and Hunter made their way to the ring in a tank as the audience went nuts, a tank that shot pyro from its cannon. The return of D-Generation X was given much fanfare, and yes, people say that DX had ran its course by now, but I don't care. This was an awesome ring entrance, and I really enjoyed watching it back for this video. The match was decent too. Cody and DiBiase were given a ton of time to get their stuff in. DX fought from underneath for the majority of the match, but a sweet chin music to Cody Rhodes ended the bout. It was more about the novelty of seeing DX back in the ring though, and for fans of Shawn Michaels, it was good to see HBK back inside the squared circle after being away for so long. The Breaking Point match is probably my favourite match of the whole trilogy. This one was the first ever Submissions Count Anywhere match. I'm pretty sure this is the only Submissions Count Anywhere match, but if I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments. The rules are self-explanatory. There's no pinfalls, no disqualifications, and no countouts. You can only win by making your opponent submit, and submissions can occur anywhere in the building. Breaking Point was held in Montreal, Canada, and when the audience began chanting "You screwed Brett" after DX's entrance, Triple H masterfully made light of the situation by putting all the blame on Shawn while claiming that the King of Kings wasn't even around at Survivor Series 97. Anyway, this is a fun and chaotic match, and the submission only stipulation adds a new layer to the bout. Legacy and DX fight around the arena, and there's a lot of rushing to break up submission holds and things like that. A lot of fans wanted to see Shawn submit in Montreal, and the fans got their wish. Shawn topped out while being locked in a $1 Million Dream and a figure 4 around the ring post. And it was just good to see Triple H and Shawn Michaels lose to 2 younger superstars who were trying to make a name for themselves at the time. Still, the rivalry would continue on into the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. DX vs Legacy inside the cell. The fun and games were now over according to HBK and The Game. It was time to get serious. The WWE tried to do something different with this Hell in a Cell match, and you really can't blame them either. This was the first ever Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, and the show featured 3 cell matches, and I do believe that the introduction of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view really watered down what the Hell in a Cell match was supposed to be. But anyway, DX versus The Legacy was our main event. We already saw CM Punk versus The Undertaker and John Cena versus Randy Orton inside the cell, so again, the WWE would need to try and tell a different story with the final Hell in a Cell match of the evening. Legacy attacks Shawn and Hunter during the DX entrance. A brawl takes place around the outside of the cell that resulted in Triple H taking the crossroads on the entrance ramp. This resulted in Shawn Michaels getting locked inside the Hell in a Cell without a partner. The majority of the match then plays out like a fight for survival. HBK tries his best to overcome the odds while Triple H desperately tries to get into the cell. Triple H ends up leaving. We thought the game had left HBK high and dry, but he returns later with bolt cutters. Triple H gets into the ring and then the tides just completely turn. Ted Dibiase ends up getting locked outside of the cell and Cody Rhodes takes a complete beating from D-Generation X. Cody takes a sledgehammer to the head along with Sweet Chin Music, and DX wins the Hell in a Cell match. This was the final match of the Legacy vs DX rivalry. It wasn't a bad series of matches at all, but I'd recommend the Breaking Point submission match if you're only going to choose one. DX would then go after John Cena's WWE Championship at the 2009 Survivor Series in a triple threat match, Cena vs Michaels vs Triple H. Many fans and John Cena himself felt the odds were stacked against the WWE champ here due to Shawn and Triple H's friendship. DX even came to the ring together for the match, but John needn't worry. HBK nailed Triple H with Sweet Chin Music right after the opening bell, much to the surprise of everyone in the arena. This super kick here meant that all bets were off, and Triple H had no problem going after HBK once he regained his composure. A decent match ended with John Cena throwing HBK onto Triple H with an attitude adjustment. Triple H got pinned and Cena retained the title. The DX relationship wasn't damaged at all after the match. Both men understood that it was every man for himself, and so DX continued on to the TLC 2009 pay-per-view. Shawn and Hunter were getting a shot at the WWE Tag Team titles. Strangely enough, Triple H and Shawn Michaels together had never been Tag Team champions, but that would all change after the TLC show in Shawn's hometown of San Antonio, Texas. The tag team champions at the time, Big Show and Chris Jericho, were an odd coupling that turned out to be quite successful. It seemed like the WWE had no clue what to do with the Big Show sometimes. He's been involved in so many tag teams over the years, and he's turned heel so many times that it's difficult to keep track of. But the pairing of Chris Jericho and the Big Show was actually quite decent. Known as Jericho Show, the tag team champions would face their toughest match yet at the TLC pay-per-view when they met Shawn Michaels and Triple H in the ring. The match was also contested under TLC rules, and it turned out to be an excellent bout. The TLC 2009 main event goes on for over 20 minutes, and Shawn's chemistry with Chris Jericho really helped the match move at a quick pace, only slowing down for the big high spots, and there were a lot of high spots in this one. The ending was also really well done. The ladder had been destroyed and it was in two parts, and so Y2J decided to stand on his partner's shoulders to retrieve the belts. This led to the Big Show getting hit with Sweet Chin Music. Triple H then held up half a ladder while Shawn retrieved the belts. And so, for the first time in DX history, HBK and Triple H were the WWE Tag Team Champions. Soon afterwards, Hornswoggle became the official mascot of DX. Hornswoggle tried to sue Shawn and Hunter due to the emotional and physical distress they had caused him when DX refused to make Hornswoggle a member. In the end, Shawn and Hunter settled out of Little People's Court, and Hornswoggle became the DX mascot. The January 11th, 2010 episode of Raw saw Mike Tyson return to DX. Tyson was originally scheduled to team up with Jericho to face Hunter and Shawn, but in the end, Tyson turned on Y2J and he realigned himself with DX. A nice callback here to 1998. The end was near though for Shawn Michaels, and D-Generation X would have to wrap up their run before WrestleMania 26 came around on March 28th. Shawn and Hunter dropped the tag team titles on the February 8th episode of Raw to Miz and Big Show. This was actually a triple threat tag team match that also featured the Straight Edge Society. And then Hunter and Shawn had their final tag team match of this run on March 1st. HBK and Hunter failed to win their tag team titles back from Show Miz on this episode of Raw. The Undertaker distracted HBK by appearing on the Titantron, allowing The Miz to score the win. So then, while all of this was going on, the HBK vs Undertaker rematch was set in motion as Shawn, in storyline, became obsessed with wrestling the Undertaker one more time at WrestleMania. Undertaker would only work the match if Shawn put his career on the line, and Shawn agreed to the monumental stipulation. Shawn and Undertaker had another good match at WrestleMania 26, but HBK couldn't put the Undertaker away, and so the career of Shawn Michaels was over. Shawn delivered an emotional speech the next night on Raw, and his old DX buddy Triple H was there to say goodbye to the Heartbreak Kid. DX may have officially been no more, but this didn't stop a multitude of special one-night reunions happening over the following years. Even more shocking is the fact that even after retirement, Shawn Michaels would once again step into the ring alongside Triple H to face the Brothers of Destruction in 2018. Let's take a look at a few notable one-night reunions before talking about the DX vs Brothers of Destruction match. Shawn and Hunter inducted Mike Tyson into the Hall of Fame in 2012, and then a few months later, on the 1000th episode of Raw, Shawn Michaels and Triple H made a special appearance along with X-Pac, Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg. This ended with the ever-entertaining Damien Sandow getting attacked afterwards. Kevin Nash became an honorary member of DX on the January 10th, 2013 NXT tapings. Billy Gunn and X-Pac also showed up, and this one seems to fly under the radar. Damien Sandow once again got destroyed for interrupting the festivities. Soon afterwards, Triple H began the Authority angle, where he and wife Stephanie McMahon would rule over the WWE with an iron fist. This would eventually lead to the in-ring return of the New Age Outlaws, who ended up siding with the Authority, and also Shawn Michaels would become a minor associate of the faction, most notably helping Triple H during his feud with Daniel Bryan, and also helping Triple H in his match against Sting at WrestleMania 31. The Mania match turned into a DX vs NWO brawl at one point. DX also got together on the 25th anniversary of Raw on January 22nd, 2018. Scott Hall appeared alongside Triple H, Shawn Michaels, the Outlaws and X-Pac on this evening, but Kevin Nash couldn't make the trip. And that brings us to Crown Jewel 2018, held on November 2nd in Saudi Arabia. In very basic terms, the WWE were, and still are, paid a handsome sum of money to produce shows in Saudi Arabia. The big story at Crown Jewel 2018 was the in-ring return of Shawn Michaels. HBK would be teaming up with Triple H once again to face The Undertaker and Kane. The immediate assumption here is that HBK done it for the money, and it's a very fair assumption. It's a ridiculously large payday in Saudi Arabia, and one that Shawn Michaels thought was worth coming back for. When trying to explain why he returned for the one-off match, Shawn said, "It was a special request from my boss. I just feel like if you're in a tag match, it's not the same thing. I know it's not right to say it, and I don't mean it in a negative way, but to me it just felt like a house show that somebody asked me to make, and I went ahead and did it in a tag match and got it over with." Shawn also explained that he'd never have another opportunity in his life to share the ring with The Undertaker, Kane and Triple H, and this too was apparently a big factor in his decision. But the whole Saudi Arabian money thing admittedly just can't be overlooked. It is what it is, and if Shawn felt it was the right thing to do, then he felt it was the right thing to do. The match, however, was absolutely brutal. DX, now representing the NXT brand, where Shawn and Hunter do extensive work behind the scenes, came out to a great ovation, and I'll admit I was extremely pleased to see Shawn back, even if it was just for a tag match in a less than perfect setting. But then the bell rang and things fell apart pretty fast. Triple H got injured early into the bout, and The Undertaker was going through a tough time in regards to his match quality. Taker was trying to come to terms with his own retirement, but he was seeking that one last big match and send-off. It didn't happen at Crown Jewel all 2018. Kane's mask even got punched off during the match. Pretty much anything that could go wrong did go wrong. If I'm honest, I felt Shawn Michaels worked better than everyone else involved in the match, even though there was a rough looking moonsault from HBK to the outside of the ring, but really, it doesn't make a difference. The match was bad, everyone involved knew it was bad, and I'm sure it wasn't how HBK imagined his comeback match turning out. I will say this though, all of these men were of a good age in 2018. We can't expect 1997 performances here. We should have kept our expectations in check, and I'll admit I got carried away when a Shawn Michaels return match was announced. I kinda expected something more when I really shouldn't have. Anyway, Triple H scored the win with a weak pedigree. Shawn said that no one bothers him about coming back for one more match anymore, so at least that part makes him happy. D-Generation X were inducted into the 2019 Hall of Fame, and their acceptance speech was very entertaining. The group even went out of their way to talk about Chyna, one of the true originals of DX and someone we thought wouldn't get brought up at all. X-Pac got quite emotional during the speech. Shawn Michaels and Triple H goofed around. Billy Gunn tried to make a little remark about being an AEW employee, which led to Triple H calling the organisation a pissant company. All good stuff, and again, very entertaining. As mentioned earlier, Shawn and Hunter now work behind the scenes at NXT. Hunter leading the way while Shawn works as the head of the Performance Center. Not bad for two guys who were bearing their asses on weekly TV to try and grab a rating. Who knows when DX will show up on our screens again, though you do feel that it's always inevitable, and whether you enjoy these reunions or not is completely up to you. For fans who lived through the dawn of the Attitude Era though, and for fans who understand the true impact that HBK and Hunter had all those years ago, then these fans would probably find another DX reunion quite welcoming. Thanks very much for watching.